So thanks for joining us. It's great to have your company. And today we're delving into the headline that's making waves across Europe, and especially in the UK. Spain has just announced a bold and controversial move, 100% property tax on non-EU citizens buying homes in the country. That's right, it's been unveiled, Sean, and you've been on every single news outlet from Daily Mail to the Times.
We have done the rounds. I know how you feel now.
What's happening? What's going on?
I did. So what happened was we had Pedro Sanchez, who is the Prime Minister of Spain, and he gave an address yesterday with no sort of sign of any notes or anything. It was purely to say there's this, I think, 10 or 12 point plan about how they're going to sort the property market out, because like a lot of countries in Europe, there is a housing shortage. Yeah. And this is a socialist government we've got in Spain, and they are worried that they are not doing what they should be doing, which is obviously trying to make sure that people can afford to buy and rent homes. Sure. And I think it's something he's got to address. Like a lot of these European countries, the problem with Spain is that, you know, its number one export is tourism. So they are a country that is used to welcoming strangers and foreigners into its land, whether that's just purely on holiday or whether it's actually investing in the country. So that has brought them a lot of riches over the years since they became a fully fledged democracy. So you've got to kind of balance it. You've got to be careful what you wish for. Yes, I can totally see the pressure that's now mounting on the local situations where people can't afford to buy or to rent a property because overseas people are coming in and buying up the stock. I get that. But there's got to be a better way. Got to be a smarter way and a more balanced way of doing it. Because what he's suggesting yesterday, I think a lot of people would agree in the main with some of his ideas. But the big headline that came out of yesterday was this figure of 100% tax.
On the value.
Well, nobody really knows what it means. And that's the problem. There was absolutely no detail in this announcement. So everybody over the last 24 hours has just gone, what the heck? And they've reached for their phones and they've been contacting their lawyers and contacting their estate agents saying, what is happening? You know, what the heck is going on?
Well, coming to that actually, because we've had loads of questions coming in, which I've got here, hot off the press, so thanks ever so much for getting in touch. I know a lot of you might be concerned, especially if you're relocating here to Spain, looking to buy a property, certainly this year, next year, in 5 years or whenever it might be. So thanks ever so much for those questions. And I think there's two main points here, Sean. What it really means about this 100% does it mean property value or does it mean the tax on it? So we'll come to that in just a second. But one of the questions was, what exactly does 100% property tax mean for non-EU citizens? And how would it impact those looking to buy a property in Spain?
Well, the worst case scenario, and none of us think, and I've spoken to several lawyers today and several of these news outlets, and nobody thinks that this is what he meant. But if it is what he meant, it's crazy. Because what he's saying is if you're a non-EU buyer and you want to buy for speculative reasons, you come along and you buy a property at 300,000 euros, you're going to be taxed 300,000 euros on top.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts.
So a €2 million villa?
Give us another 2 million. So it's unlikely that that's what he meant. Which then leads you to think, okay, well, what did he mean? And what we think he means is that there are some taxes that non-residents are charged to have a property in Spain. And what we think he means is that he wants to double those taxes. Now, depending on which tax he's talking about, I don't even know if he knows, but some of them are hundreds of euros, some of them are thousands of euros. So it's like a sliding scale of bad news, really. But if it's at the lower end of the scale, it's not going to be a deal breaker for most of our buyers, if I'm absolutely honest. So anyway, I think it was reckless what he's done, because I think he's left it hanging. He's given absolutely no clarity, no detail, and he's got a load of people worried.
Yeah, I know you've got a few reassuring answers about this as well that you found out today in a very short space of time. But just go over a few more questions that might sort of provoke a little bit of interest as well. How has Spain implemented similar measures in the past, and were they effective? Just so we know that if they do decide to do anything.
Not to this extent. I mean, obviously they can raise and lower taxes. They've raised the amount of transfer tax on property purchases, depending on the economic state of the nation. So after the financial crisis, they lowered a lot of taxes to stimulate market growth. Of course, any government, that's a remedy that's open to them. But to basically double the price of properties with this tax, This is why I find it unbelievable that this is the route he's even thinking of going down. Yeah. So I think it's a non-starter. Personally, I don't think that's what he meant. And we need clarity on that in the next couple of days. This often happens in Spain.
Yeah.
We get a speech, everyone's like, what the heck did that mean?
Yeah.
And then you get the detail a couple of days later. And I'm just hoping that we get a bit of common sense out of it.
Yeah, sure. Now, we hear a lot about the EU. There's another question just come in, touching on the legal. If you can't answer it, don't worry, Sean, it's absolutely fine. But is this tax legally enforceable under EU regulations? And could it face challenges in the European courts?
I think it will face challenges if they try and bring it in. I don't know how enforceable or non-enforceable it is. Because obviously you've got a situation where you're going to be treating a person from Ireland or Holland very differently to a person from the UK or the US. Is that right? Is that fair? Now, we all know about the pros and cons of Brexit. My position on that is that, we left a club, and although some members of the club drove us mad, and some members, some of the rules of the club weren't great, by leaving the club, you also walk away from the advantages of being in it. And this is an advantage of being in it, in that within the EU, you can't impose these differences on nation states. So let's wait and see.
Now, speaking of the legals, I know Cloud9, we like to do the very best we can for our clients and, of course, our viewers as well, and give you the right information as it comes in, as best to our knowledge. We've got a great team of legal support that we often go to, and they've been super in offering you some support today. And some of it coming out at the moment is quite reassuring, to say the least, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 different opinions from different lawyers that we use and that we like. Some have been very, guarded, saying we don't think this is kind of going to happen, it's not right, and these are the reasons why. And some that have been utterly damning, saying this is reckless, it's crazy, what is this guy thinking of, and there's no way this is going to happen. So, but the good news is that each one of them has said this is so unlikely to happen, and if something does happen, it's not going to be along the lines of what a lot of people are panicking about. Yeah. They're the two key things.
But also, it has to be passed, doesn't it? The bill has to be passed. Regions have to agree on this, and already we're knowing that there are several regions that are important that are saying, hey, we're not interested.
We're not going to do it. I mean, this is almost a vanity policy. It's a great soundbite. For those people who've been marching on the streets of the Spanish cities and towns saying we demand greater access to housing, this is manna from heaven. But I don't think there's anything more to it than that, apart from maybe a vote-winning ploy. This guy has a wafer-thin majority, if a majority at all. It depends on who he's talking to that day in terms of other political parties. Spain is pretty much a coalition government. There's so many different facets at play, left-wing, right-wing. And as you said, his normal bedfellows have already said, we ain't backing you on this, mate. So it's very unlikely, even if he wanted to try and get this through Parliament, it's very unlikely that he'd get anywhere near doing that, which makes it even more pointless than what he did yesterday.
Yeah, so it's going to take a bit of time, and I think we need a little bit more clarity as well, for sure. But again, any advice, just to wrap up then, that for any of our clients out there, looking at buying and getting a bit worried, because we've got the world of social media out there. Everyone's an expert. Everyone thinks they know what they heard yesterday.
Yep.
Whether or not that's fact or not. It's important to get the facts right as best we can. So what advice would you give to somebody that's there watching the news, being a bit upset or disappointed or maybe worried? Certainly, what can we say to them?
What we would say is what the Spanish government has proved with the abolition of the golden visa is that they have been fair with that, because what they've said all along is that we're going to abolish it. And they've given a date, which is 3 months from now. But what they've also said is, look, anyone who's in the process, don't panic. Your application will still be heard, and if you're granted a golden visa, that is yours, and it'll be renewed, blah, blah, blah. So they are respecting the rights of people who've actually already got their things in place. And I suspect, or I hope, like most Western governments, the same would be applied to this. So if they decided to introduce new legislation that was punitive financially in the extreme, anyone who's already got a property or signed a private purchase contract to buy maybe an off-plan property, the interests of those people would be protected, because that's, you have to apply a degree of common sense. And this is where my lawyer brain kicks into gear, because there has to be an equitable outcome. If you've committed to a purchase and signed a private purchase contract, then the taxes and the situation at play on that date should be the ones that apply to your purchase. That's what they do in the UK. And that's what I mean about the golden visa. That's what they tried and look like they're doing with the golden visa here in Spain. So my advice to people is, well, maybe rather than step back and wait, get it done.
Yeah, get it done. Also, the news is as well, going down the lucrative, non-lucrative digital nomad, the visa options. It doesn't really apply to that. We're talking here by what we know so far.
This is a different thing. And look, it's mainly a political move. And as I say, I totally get why. But what he's trying to do, he's not penalising residents. He's not penalising even EU nationals who want to buy a property here. He is after the money from non-EU overseas investors who are buying for speculative reasons. Yeah. So if Anti-Dot wants to come and live in Spain and emigrate here and contribute to the Spanish system and pay taxes, good. As long as Anti-Dot can get in with on a particular visa, she'll be more than welcome. The problem is that if you get an overseas buyer like Anti-Dot who wants to buy a villa in Spain but use it for 2 months of the year, so it's lying empty for 10 months, she's not contributing anything to the Spanish economy. She's not paying any taxes, really. It's a waste of a house and a waste of a buyer. And what he's saying is, look, I don't want those types of people buying property in Spain. I want people who are going to contribute, or I want locals to have access to those properties. Yeah. So the sentiment is laudable, but the way he's going about it is a bit naff. But what it means is if you wanted to come over here for legitimate reasons and to live here and to contribute, there shouldn't be any change because he's after speculative investors.
Sure. And two of the main key points that we've really got out of this that we're just ironing out now was that slight miscommunication or confusion over what does 100% tax mean. If it just means just a retweak of the current situation, all right, it's not great. If it does get passed, and it probably won't, maybe not, it's not great, but it'll be a tweak on the percentage when we're buying the tax there, not on the actual property. So if you're buying something for 400 grand, it's not going to cost 8.
Well, I think that, I don't know of any other nation that has gotten away with doing that. And that's one of the things that one of the lawyers said to me this evening was that would be a first to say to somebody, your property is 400,000, but you know what, we're going to charge you 800,000. Nah, come on.
Exactly.
You can't do that.
Yeah,
for maybe sure. You can, but I don't think it's going to get passed.
So watch this space. We're going to keep you updated as and when all the news comes in, certainly when we get legal advice and updates from government sources as well. We'll keep you posted as always. Do make some comments. We'd love to get back to you as well on any comments that you've got. What's your feelings on this? How are you feeling? And we'll look forward to seeing you on our next edition. So from Sean and myself for the moment, any last words?
Well, I think we'll be back very shortly on this because I think we'll be updating this hopefully over the next couple of days to clarify a few points.
And also to reassure you.
Yeah, my advice is don't panic. The lawyers I've spoken to today said, look, don't panic. This is very, very, very unlikely to happen. If it does, it'll be far less punitive than people think. In the meantime, get on with your life. If you want a property in Spain, I know I would say this, but crack on.
Crack on and get it. Okay, till the next time from Sean and myself, it's bye for now.